the Middle East, and I just do not see that a democracy is going to be able to take hold in this country where there's no history of democracy. I just see civil war in the future.
Sure, I think you're probably right. But one thing that I think gets overlooked in all of this, with the discussions of the weapons of mass destruction, about the democracy, and whether the Iraqi people on balance want Americans to be there or don't want Americans to be there, all of that is really irrelevant. The question is, why is America over there in the first place? It is absolutely no business of the United States. There is no authority in the Constitution of the United States for a president to unilaterally declare a preemptive war against a foreign country without a declaration of war from Congress, which could only come on the basis of some kind of attack against the United States. And secondly, what business is it of the United States to be building democracies anywhere? And if they're going to build a democracy in Iraq, then why not in Pakistan? Well, not in Pakistan, because they're our partners in the war against terrorism, and so we'll overlook their martial law and all these other things. And why not in Russia? Why not in China? Why not in Uzbekistan or Turkmenistan or any of these other dictatorships around the world? Or maybe that's the plan. But whatever it is, it has nothing to do with the United States Constitution.
Also, the reason for this war changes every few days, few months.
Sure.
It's incredible. If you ask, and now if you ask a different administrative official or even a different person on the street why we're fighting this war, you'll get that many different answers, and they'll change every few days, every few weeks,
Well, they change as they get
month.
refuted. It's what I call the motivational two-step. You know, you say, well, there were no weapons of mass destruction. Oh, well, we're two-step over here. We're there because they're a harbor for terrorists. Yes, but they never found any terrorist camps there. Oh, well, we're two-step over here. We're building democracy there. Yes, but it's not the business of the United States, and so on and so forth. Just dance around.
It's because, I think it's because we made this decision. That's in life. You know that when people are rationalizing a decision that they made the decision emotionally.
Right.
They
now
made it because
they
they're
have
angry
to justify it
at them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we are angry at them and they must pay. And for some reason the people of Iraq got to be them, although there's no proof. Even if any of the proof from any of these conspiracy theories, from any of these right-wing conspiracy theory websites turn out to be true,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Saddam Hussein in Iraq would be 1 or 2% responsible for 9/11, and Osama bin Laden is still 99 to 100% responsible. And if we would have spent all that money we were spending in Iraq to put the people there on social programs, catching Saddam Hussein, we would have caught him by
Osama bin
now.
Laden.
So yeah, Osama bin Laden instead of Saddam Hussein. So I'm just flabbergasted, and I don't understand how the American people can go for this at all.
Well, the interesting thing about it is that the American people have in effect admitted their mistake. They now, according to the polls, a majority of them believe that it was a mistake to attack Iraq. Mm-hmm. George Bush has not admitted anything. And in fact, this is a very important point. Before the election, people like you and I said that, look, if you vote for the lesser of two evils, it's not going to be taken as the lesser of two evils. It's going to be taken as an endorsement of what I stand for. And if you vote for George Bush, you're saying, yes, I really love that Medicare program you passed for prescription drugs. And yes, I love the fact that you're attacking countries around the world. And yes, this and that and the other thing. And, you know, people kind of laughed that off, as you just did. But on Barbara Walters' show last week, she's brought the question to George Bush. She said, you know, it's turned out that all these claims for Iraq have proven to be false. There were no mobile laboratories, no unmanned planes that could drop weapons of mass destruction on the east coast of the United States, so forth and so on. Has anyone been held accountable for this? And George Bush's answer was, oh, there was an accountability. It's called an election, and I won. So in other words, if you voted for George Bush, you were excusing him for every mistake that he has made. And you no longer have any gripe about anything he's done because you have endorsed everything that he's done. And I think that's very important to remember next time around. You are in effect saying, I like what you're doing, I hope you do more of this that you've done, spend more money even, start more wars, whatever it may be. You can't vote for these people and expect to be sending a message to them to stop doing what they're doing at the same time.
Yeah, and now after the election, we see the polling that shows that the support was slipping in states, for support for George Bush and the war was slipping in states where they're losing people, in the states where they're sending their sons and daughters off to die, and they're not coming back. And that if Kerry would have made a big deal about the fact that Osama bin Laden was still running around free and clear and releasing videotapes, that they may have won the election. It was a small margin, but the data was afterwards, and so there was a lot of mistakes that were made by the Democrats in this, not to exploit the failings of George Bush. But what do we do now, though? How do we get out of this?
Well, first of all, it is interesting what you just said, because the roles have been reversed for decades. People who just wanted less government just bewailed about Me Too Republicans. The Democrats would do all these things and the Republicans would say, well, me too, I can do it better. I agree with what they're doing, but I can do it better. I mean, the Republicans had a succession of losers for opponents. First to Franklin Roosevelt with Alf Landon, Wendell Willkie, Thomas Dewey, and then Richard Nixon running against Kennedy, and then Robert Dole running against Clinton and George W. Bush Sr. and so forth, and none of them really contested the ideas of the welfare state. And now that's all changed, just as you were mentioning there. John Kerry is Me Too George Bush. He's saying, I do not think that we should pull our troops out of Iraq. I think it was the wrong war at the wrong time, so let's keep doing it, and so on. And it did not have an original idea of any kind. It was just more of what George Bush was doing. He was a Me Too Democrat. And so now we have exactly the same thing we've had for the last 50 years. It's just that the labels have been reversed.
Yeah, definitely.
And as you point out earlier, the big spending Republicans and the Democrats who are farther to the right than them.
Yeah, on economic issues they are. Everything is completely muddled and confused. You know, on the old economic spectrum, if you say that the right wing, and not that libertarians are right wing, I'm certainly not, but the old economic spectrum, that the right being, you know, less government, the left being more government, we now have two left parties, and all day long on talk radio we hear this, Republicans saying, those leftists, those liberals,
big spending liberals,
over there, and they're the ones growing the government much worse, 3 times the domestic spending under George Bush than we had, or 3 times the increase under Bush than we had under Clinton. So I just don't understand at all how long, you know, this can keep going and how long they can hold on to the fiscal conservatives, especially with what's going on in Iraq. I mean, so much of it is social spending in Iraq. I mean, if you're talking about bringing democracy to another country, that's foreign aid. That's social spending. So, you know, why are people backing him? And there's this constant, convoluted, twisted rhetoric that changes incessantly, yet he still won the election. But how do we?
But as you pointed out, because there was no alternative.
Yeah. Well, what do we? Yeah, Kerry wasn't against the war. What do we do now? How do we get out of this? We just pull out and
out
leave?
Of Iraq? Yeah. I mean, if by some miracle I assume the Oval Office tomorrow, which is not really going to happen, but but if by some miracle, the first thing I'd do is to order the troops home immediately. And but what about all that stuff, the infrastructure and everything else? They'll work it out. If that's what they have to do, they'll do it. It's their land. They'll figure out a way to do it. And maybe some other dictator will take over, just as it might if the United States stays there.
Or if we make a democracy and they vote in a dictator. If we do make a democracy in Iraq, what are we going to do when they vote in somebody worse?
Rumsfeld already covered that.
What did he say?
He said, we want to bring, this was a year and a half ago, he said, we want to bring democracy to Iraq. We want them to decide their own future.